think we ended up playing till like 1 in the morning. I've never been so sore. You're closer than you think to your goals. Grew up in Canmore. Originally was born in Banff, but my parents moved out to Canmore and played all my minor hockey there until I was, I don't know, 12-ish, I guess. And then we, kind of started traveling out to Cochrane, and then, Bantam was Airdrie. It kind of just kept getting farther and farther. But, and then obviously my 15-year-old year, I played with Youre at the Edge. And I guess that's kind of when my hockey career kind of started to take off a little bit. And like that, I realized, I can, maybe make something out of this. And, after that year, I was lucky enough to make junior and went to Oaks for 2 years, and came back to the Edge for school. When my season was done there both years, and I've continued going back to the Edge every summer to train just because it's such an awesome environment, and love the guys there, and Ross, our trainer, is awesome. So it's just been a good fit all around. And after junior, I went to North Dakota for 3 years, and I'd say those are probably the best 3 years of my life there. It's just, it's hockey, all over town, and that's all anyone thinks about there. It's basically like a little Canadian city that's crazy about hockey. But and then after my junior year, I signed with Ottawa, and I think I ended up playing like 5 games when I went up there, and then last year played most of the year up down in Belleville, but I got 8 games in with the Sens there too, so it's kind of been a back and forth affair since then. But camp's coming up here, so hopefully a good year ahead.
Yeah, and a tough time to jump into it too, just with all the COVID and the taxi squad rules, and the way they kind of navigate the roster. Obviously, that didn't make it the easiest transition from North Dakota, I can imagine.
Yeah, the taxi squad was definitely a little tough, and but I think that's as a young guy, you're going to go through those things, and just about navigating through it, and not backing down to that kind of adversity. So I think in the long run, that's all going to be better for me. So
for sure. So we'll jump back for a sec. Obviously, I know the story, but we'll go back. We want to talk about that 15s year when you first came to Edge. So I guess what was the decision to come to Edge instead of playing for Airdrie there, or playing in Okotoks or something like that for minor hockey? What was the decision to come to Edge for 15s that year?
I just remember Kelly, our coach, kind of recruiting me there at Alberta Cup, and it's just it's kind of starting to get a little bigger at that point, I think. And I had a few buddies going there already that I kind of knew growing up playing spring hockey with. So I think it kind of just when my parents said let's give it a go for a year, we were still living out in Canmore and commuting every day, which was kind of tough, and 45-minute drive out and back. So, but I think that's that was probably the biggest year that kind of just, like I said before, just made me realize like, I want to do this hockey thing. And everyone there is so like-minded, just being around all those athletes, and obviously a really good school too. So I got pretty lucky that I made that decision.
And what was your training regimen like at that point in time? Were you, because I know it varies from guy to guy, especially in hockey. Some guys, they can just pick up the stick and play hockey, and others, they work really hard in the gym. Like, were you big in the gym, or what was that looking like?
Oh yeah, me and Chewy were in there 4 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
No,
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, no, I'd say, but we were actually probably 2 of the guys that liked the gym the most, honestly, at that age. And like, I guess we were 15 there, so that's kind of maybe right when I started like really working out. Like 13, 14, I guess I was working out too, but nothing crazy, kind of just getting introduced to stuff. And then 15, 16, I'd say, is when I really started getting in the gym and enjoying it. And obviously those are the times where you're going to see the biggest gains, when you go from not really being in the gym at all to being in there a lot. So I think it definitely helped me.
Bites.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that too. You meet cam bites, and obviously, like you said, Joy, our trainer Ross, there was world class, he really helped us. And like you said, Doc, just those are the years that, you know, you put on a substantial amount of muscle, even in season. I remember gaining, you know, 10, 15 pounds every year in season, and it makes a huge difference. But to jump back to that too, that year, I remember you had been drafted by Swift in Bantam, right? It was Swift?
Yeah, yep.
And I remember you went to camp there and you tweaked your hammy, and you came into that 15s year with, sore hammy, and then we went to the showcase in Penticton to start the year, and you were out. And then it was the next week, I want to say, you came into the gym, and I remember coming in, and you were being carted out with your meniscus.
Yeah.
And so with that, walk through what was going through your mind at that point, once you knew, like, you know, how serious it was and how long you were going to be out for. You know, here you are, first year. Like you said, this was kind of the time where you realized it was going to be a big year and something you could do with it. And obviously the first year at Edge, and then bam, you know, something like that happens. What was going through your mind, and walk us through that?
Yeah, that was tough. Like I remember, I don't remember what I did to my hamstring exactly. I think it actually might have been like just like growing stuff, and it was pulling on something a little weird and was just causing me a lot of discomfort. And then I remember I played that first weekend maybe, and then like that following week at practice, I was just barely moving out there. And I remember Kelly, our coach, just telling me to get off the ice, and I was just so bummed out because it was just like I was looking forward to that year. We had a good team, and then my knee thing was actually kind of a blessing in disguise for the hamstring, because the hamstring had been bugging me a while, and I just, you know, as hockey players, we don't really rest a lot, and I think it just kind of progressively got worse and worse, and then I ended up doing in my knee, just doing backward butt kicks in the gym one day, and there goes my meniscus, and couldn't bend my knee.
Jeez.
Just locked in one spot, I can still remember. And yeah, I think I had Brady, our athletic therapist, like basically come in and carry me out on some kind of trolley or whatever.
So how old were you?
15.
At this point?
Yeah, 15.
15? Okay.
But
that was our first
like,
year.
Yeah, the blessing in disguise is that when I was out for 3 months because I had my meniscus repaired, like they can either, you know, snip it and you can kind of be back in 2 to 3 weeks, I think, or they can repair it and it takes a lot longer. So it was like 3-month recovery or 3.5. But like I'm obviously better off in the long run because they didn't actually take anything out, and I was young, and that's kind of what they suggested. But my hamstring actually ended up like resting and obviously recovering for those 3 months that I wasn't doing anything. So I kind of came back probably healthier than I would have been if I would have just kept going, to be honest. So.
Yeah. So was that like your first substantial amount of time not being on the ice, those 3 months?
Yeah, and that's like honestly the only like bad injury I've had in my entire hockey career so far. So been pretty lucky with that kind of stuff.
I know, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so when you came back from that after the 3 months was up, like how are you feeling? Because I know like injuries like that, especially. I mean, I tore my hamstring. I was out for 7 months, and when I came back, it was probably at least a couple of years before I stopped feeling it, doing like certain exercises and stuff like that. So did it linger at all, or was it pretty much just back to where you were?
Yeah, I remember I like rushed back for playoffs, and I think I got back like maybe the weekend before playoffs. Like literally I missed the entire season. I still remember just like grabbing a coffee, watching practice every morning. It just got so old, and I was just so done with it. But like I don't know, I mean, you look back at those times and it's like you learn something out of it. And I got back that weekend before, and then like I remember I could like barely run when I started skating again. Like I think I maybe rushed a little too much. But everything felt like pretty normal, honestly, skating. It was just like the running.
Yeah.
It was the impact. I could barely run because just like the impact of running on your meniscus is obviously a little bit more than skating, but kind of got back into it. And we only had 2 weekends left, so it was kind of just like, I tried to feel as normal as I could for playoffs, but it was pretty good, honestly. I had a really good surgeon, and nothing really bugged me too much after that, other than just some mobility stuff. But
yeah, and I remember that too. I think we might have done back then. That was when we were doing the showcases, where you'd go to Penticton or Edmonton. You'd play 5-6 games in a Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend. And yeah, I think you got, well, we had you back for maybe one or two of those, and then yeah, it was right off to Penticton for playoffs, and it was just full steam ahead. But yeah, that's good. And
Yeah.
like you said, you've never really had any complications with it. I know we talk about that almost every summer. Check in, and it's 100%. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's what you want to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. And then so after that, so what did the rest of your high school career look like from that point on? Like, were you? I know you mentioned. So were you playing juniors? Like,
Yeah, so that was
at some point during.
that was my only year of, I guess, quote unquote high school hockey. I guess.
hockey.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
So then I went to played junior A that year after, and yeah, I was probably a little bit of a step behind, just since I missed that entire season basically, and then, but after that, after my 16-year-old year in junior, I'd say everything was pretty normal with the knee, and started getting everything kind of back. So.
Which is crazy to think. Like, to put that into perspective, you basically went from Bantam AAA hockey. You played a few games at 15s and then made junior A. And not just any, like, you made, the Okotoks Oilers as a 16-year-old that missed all of the previous season with an injury.
That's
and
crazy.
Not just played, like, you did well too. Which
Yeah,
is
no, we had a pretty good team
unheard
there.
of.
My
Yeah.
second year especially, but I remember my first exhibition game. Actually, I got rocked, and then one of our vets, bigger dude, came in and fought for me, and I was like, holy, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of like a welcome to the league moment. But yeah, no, I was lucky in the situations I was put in there for sure.
Yeah, and then in terms of like the playing schedule, obviously you're playing north of 60 games, right?
Yeah, I think right around that probably.
Right around that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a huge shift from high school. Well, especially considering, like Dylan said, like you didn't play at all the year before. But what was it like? Because I mean, I see, like, especially a lot of guys. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too, where guys transition from college playing like 30, 35 games or whatever it might be, and then they go into the pro schedule and they simply like can't handle it. So like, what did you do to be able to get through that whole season? And did you play like the whole year? That first year out?
Like last year or?
No, like right after you left Edge and you played junior.
Yeah. No, I did. Yeah, I played that whole season. I don't remember my body being like that broken down, to be honest. Like we still. I mean, I only probably played like 14 or 15 games that season I was injured, but like we were still playing a lot of hockey, and you're obviously practicing every day, and I don't think that was that much of a jump. I think when I went from college to pro last year, that was tough in terms of schedule, because you just at college I got so used to just being in like routine and like working out pretty hard, Monday through Wednesday, kind of tapering down Thursday, playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and it's just the same like every week. And last year when I was in Belleville, like I think at the start I was probably working out a little too hard and just killing myself in the gym too much, just because I was used to doing that in college, because it was predictable and I kind of knew when I was going to be playing. And just by November, December, I was absolutely burnt out last year, and just kind of that second half kind of just learned how to taper back and like almost just recover more and save my energy for games, and maybe realize that maybe I'm not going to keep all my strength during the entire season, but it's more important to perform and have energy when you're performing than to keep that little bit of muscle that you might lose. So
For sure. So I guess before, obviously, we want to get into the pro stuff and talk about the transition from North Dakota to obviously Ottawa and Belleville. But going back, how was your mindset going into North Dakota? Obviously, as a true freshman, you would have been 18 heading in. So where was your head at heading into one of the biggest hockey programs in the country as an 18-year-old?
Yeah, I think I was just pumped for the opportunity. Like, most guys go down there in the summer and train, and I think I kind of got tied up my freshman summer. Actually, I only went in for like a week because I had finished. Canadian school runs way longer than the American school, so I was in school till whatever it is, end of June, and then I think I had to be at the draft and missed another week and a half from development camp. But but like when I went in there, the guys were all super good, and you know, as you guys would know, like you know, you bond with those guys that you go in with type thing, and it was just an unreal 3 years. So.
Yeah, you guys had a good group and tons of accomplishments too, which obviously is a result. They go hand in hand of being a close team. And that was, something special to watch you guys. I remember staying up and watching what was it? Was it 4 overtimes against Duluth?
Yeah, 5 overtimes.
5 overtimes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We'll jump into that a little bit, Doc. Talk about, what was going on in between periods, after the second, third overtime. Like, where was your head at? Where was the mindset of the team? What are you fueling with at that point? What did the inside of the dressing room look like for that game?
I mean, the inside of the dressing room was just littered with banana peels, Coke cans, water bottles, Gatorades. I mean, anything. I think we were taking mustard and pickles at one point too, like just to try and keep some salt in our body. And guys were getting IVs. Like I think we had 5 total IVs.
Wow.
5 total IVs.
Holy shit!
And their goalie had to take one of our IVs because he was. Like, they actually had to pull their goal.
Right, he cramped up.
Yeah,
That's
they had
right.
to take him out.
That.
I'm not sure what overtime that would have been. Maybe, like, the end of the third, he cramped up and literally could not stay on the ice. So we had to give him one of our IVs. And then I remember we gave 3 IVs to, like, our top 3 scorers in, like, the third overtime. We're like, come on, boys. Like, you guys need these. But
that's funny.
I want to say it was after the second. So, like, the third, fourth, and fifth overtime, every time after the flood, I stepped onto the ice. I just got an instant calf cramp for like 30 seconds, and just like nothing you can do about it. You're just like pounding so many electrolytes, but you're just like, I think we ended up playing till like 1 a.m, and I've never been so sore the next day. Like, my body was.
Oh my God, I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost 3 full games. Like,
yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, the pace of the game by the 8th period was so bad. It was like basically like guys would dump it in, not have the energy to forecheck, and it was just like controlled breakout after controlled breakout. Like,
yeah,
it was insane.
That's probably why the game lasted so long, because there was like, I'm assuming there weren't many like scoring opportunities. If that's the case.
Yeah, and
well, it was kind of wild though. They scored though, didn't they? And they called it off.
Yeah,
right?
They did, and then the people upstairs, like on the TVs or whatever in the suites, saw like the replay before. Like, we couldn't see anything. There wasn't like a replay on the Jumbotron or anything, and it was in Fargo, so it was all North Dakota fans, and they all started cheering, and we're all on the bench like thinking we lost, and we hear everyone cheering. We're like, what the heck? And ends up coming back, and I think we hit like 6 posts in overtime or something, and they might have had a few too. Like, it could have ended both ways like a lot of times before it did. But
oh yeah, that was wild. Yeah. I remember watching that one. That was your last year, right? Your junior year.
Yeah, it was a tough outing because I felt like we had a really good team, and obviously Duluth is always good. So
yeah, another strong program for sure. Yeah, like you said, that's a tough way to end. Obviously, was that the second game of the tournament?
Yeah, so we won our first game, and that was to go to the Frozen Four. Yeah.
Right. Obviously, a tough way to end it, but a bit of a double-edged sword. Obviously, exciting time for you signing with the Senators, and shortly after that, making your way to Ottawa. So, what was, like you said, I know we talked about it briefly, but dive in. How was the transition from the college-style hockey to the pros? Like, that's, you're at the cream of the crop. What were some of the biggest differences you noticed as a defenseman?
I think just guys in the corners, it's different. Like, you go in there and you're competing against actual men that know how to protect the puck. It's just like in college, I could go into a corner, and obviously there's bigger, stronger guys there too, but like, for the most part, just come in and maybe shove someone off the puck. And in the NHL, it's like even the small guys know how to protect the puck and get low and like just use their body so much better than junior and college guys, and they're just overall probably just a lot smarter, I'd say. Like, I wouldn't say the speed is really that much different. Like, just guys protecting pucks and making plays, and just their kind of hockey IQ.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say even, I noticed that too, is yes, the speed increases, but it's the mental side of things that takes the biggest jump for sure. The way the guys think the game, the way they see the ice, the way they see plays, for sure.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, what it was like going from playing in arguably the best conference in college hockey to the pros. It's got to be a big difference for sure.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, but I can only.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can only imagine like what it's like not coming from a top D1 program to going pro. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be a whole different ball game.
Yeah, no, the NCHC definitely prepared me. I'd say the best it possibly could have in terms of being anywhere in college or being anywhere in junior. Like it's that league is pretty littered with guys that move on, and North Dakota's obviously done a great job of kind of developing guys and helping them move on as well. So I was in a great spot there.
For sure. I mean, you look at those teams, every one of them's top in the country. Hell, we got a taste of it playing Nebraska Omaha last year. I remember texting you about that weekend. I think frickin' Taylor Ward had a hat trick on a 5-minute power play, and that was about it. Like that, yeah. That conference is something else for sure.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was tough to leave too. I mean, obviously you're signing to go play in the NHL, but obviously you've built relationships with your teammates. Like it's a good environment, it's a great program. Like, was it tough, kind of pulling the trigger on the contract, or?
Yeah, it definitely was. Like,
yeah,
you think your whole life you just want to make it to the pro level, but then that opportunity kind of came around, and I'm sitting there, and it's such an awesome place that it was tough to leave, and obviously the coaches like supported me in doing that. Like that's pretty cool. I think that's maybe not every program's like that, where they just kind of like they obviously for their team they'd prefer you come back, but they're like, hey, like it's time to move on. You know what I mean? Like they're all for you developing and you moving on as a player, as opposed to kind of just keeping you for selfish reasons. So they were all like, if you want to go and you think this is the right thing and we think you're ready, like go for it. So it was definitely tough, but I think it was kind of time.
That's awesome. I mean, ultimately, that's what they're there for, right? To develop you, and that's what they want to see. They want to see you move on, sign the big deal, and be successful at the next level. And like you say, it's easier. It's probably a harder decision at a program like that when you have a couple guys, you, Sanderson, whoever else, Pinto, come back for another year. You put together another dynasty team. It's hard to pass that up, but like you said, that's what they want. They want to see you move on and do well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next, unless Joey, you got something you want to jump into?
No, I was gonna start talking about the whole taxi squad situation because I want to hear more about that. I know I've heard from stories in the locker room with a couple of the guys that I skate with in the summer who have been on the taxi squad, and they. It sounds pretty grueling in terms of travel and just expecting to perform at your best on both sides of the spectrum. So if you can dive into that a little bit and just talk about how different it is and kind of what you went through mentally and preparing your body physically to be able to perform when you need to.
Yeah, my first year when I came out of school, I ended up playing those 5 games. I think I was there for like maybe 15, so I was scratched for 10 of them and only played 5, and that's when that was the tax squad in full effect. And when you weren't playing, there was probably like 8 or 9 of us maybe that were on the taxi squad, as opposed to like a normal year where you have like 2 or 3 scratches. You know what I mean? Like you've got basically a full other half a team of guys, and you're just pretty much getting bag skated every day, like just to keep you in shape because you're not playing. So like that was tough, but I think, like I said, it's like one of those things where as a young guy you got to go through that stuff. And then that last year was kind of the same deal. They had the taxi squad again, but it was kind of just for parts of the season. Like I think they ended up removing it maybe halfway through the season or whatever it was. But so every day of the
about the All-Star break, they took it out, right? I think they were holding on to it until that break there. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I was up for a bit, but again, I was on the taxi squad for days that like, we're not playing, we're just practicing. Like they put me back on the taxi squad, and I mean it's I'm kind of glad those days are gone, I guess, and just looking forward to this season now. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So now I guess we're up to speed to this point in time. So how was this summer? Like summer of training, where were you training, and kind of did anything change since the past seasons?
Yeah, I was training back at the Edge again. That's
Oh yeah,
just in Calgary there, so that's where I spent most of my summer, and made it out east in Nova Scotia to see family for 2 weeks, but mainly just training in Calgary, and yeah, not much has changed. I think in terms of like just programming, like I try to do a little bit less this year almost, and I think I just kind of figured out that less is more sometimes, and not to come out of the gym like 2.5 hours every day and just feel bagged and not recover for the next day. And because I think one thing I did last year is I came into the season and I was almost just like worn down already, like just from training so hard for so long. And this year I was just kind of smarter with, I tried not to, like, if I had an hour and a half in the gym, I was like, yeah, I should probably get out of here now. Like, need to recover for tomorrow and the next day, because it ends up being a long summer if you're spending, 2 hours in the gym, then you're on the ice, whatever it is, 3 to 4 times a week. And so for me, it was just kind of managing energy levels was probably the biggest difference, but nothing specifically training wise.
Right, and I mean, this is something that we've talked about. It's a recurring theme with all of our guests, Dylan. I don't know if you've noticed, but that whole like balance situation in terms of finding the right, especially for people like yourself who obviously, like, it seems like you love to train, you love to improve in any way that you possibly can. So like dialing it back is one of those things that a lot of people struggle with, like mentally, right? Like you feel like if you tone it back just a little bit, you're not doing as much as you potentially could be. So like, what was the mental approach for you in terms of getting past that and moving forward with the, I guess, correct training program for your best performance?
I started getting better results. Like my sprint times in the gym started going up. I started, like, this year was kind of the first year that I really like found that I made like gains, like to be more explosive. Like I feel like every summer it's people's goal, you want to get faster, and it's tough to get faster. Like actually getting faster is not an easy thing to get faster in like 3 months, right? But I think I just kind of started seeing results in some of my, like, we do not fitness testing, but like a few like sprint times and jump stuff every 2 weeks to kind of just monitor how it was going. And I started making a lot of progress compared to past summers. And the only thing I was doing different was just kind of like almost taking it easier, like not dogging it or anything in the gym, but just being smarter with what I'm doing and not killing myself for no reason.
Yeah. How many times a week were you in the gym for?
Just Monday through Friday, and then Wednesdays was typically more of like a movement type day. So I'd say early in the summer,
like 4 solid lifts.
Yeah, early in the summer was like 4 lifts, and kind of later it ended up being like 3 and 1 more like agility type running track, I guess you could say, day. Yeah.
Which is perfect too. I remember doing those with Ross too. Obviously, Joyce, so at Edge, we have obviously the gym side of things with all the racks, and then there's turf. I guess it's not really turf. Like the track is, what'd you call it, Doc? It's like an actual.
It's like
turf,
a rubber.
you know?
It's like rubber. Yeah, rubber track.
Yeah, like you can do sled pushes on it, but you can sprint on it like normal. And then there's the field outside too, which is actual turf. So you can kind of do everything there. I think I've shown you pictures. It's quite the setup. It's an awesome place. I miss that place so much.
Yeah.
One thing too, Doc, we'll jump into. Talked about almost less is more, and you noticed better gains and increases in your explosiveness and sprint times. And one thing, obviously, we both have the whoops, and every once in a while I'll look at it. And I was saying to Joey before, one thing I've always noticed is like you consistently always get 8+ hours of sleep. And for you, how important is sleep with what you're doing, and how big of an effect do you think it has? That's one thing we've talked about before is people kind of overestimate or underestimate sleep, and just how critical it is for everybody, but specifically athletes.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've always been kind of like just a guy that likes to get his sleep. Like I think just from a young age, like I just never liked feeling like I was tired, right? So But obviously, as you start to get into training, you realize how important it is. And I guess the way I've approached it is like I can have a hard workout and get 6 hours of sleep and maybe get 70% gain from that workout I did that day, or I can do the same workout, or even I can do a workout that's maybe even less physically demanding, and get my 8-9 hours of sleep and get way more gain than a workout that might have been, better in terms of breaking down muscle fibers and stuff like that. But if you're not getting the rest, it's really you're pushing your body for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I have a Whoop too, and does it play any like mental role on you when you see like a low recovery or anything like that? And do you change anything, or do you just keep going through with whatever you got?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think not anymore for me. Maybe at the start, but I like the way I think of it is like, everyone else is in the same boat, even if they don't know that their recoveries are low. So it's like, maybe you wake up one day and you've got an important game and you're at 40%. I just like honestly flush it down the drain at this point, because I know that I've played like some of my best games with low recoveries for no reason, right? Like you just, whatever that day, you just feel better, or not even feel better. You're just playing better for whatever reason. And you just can't, I don't think you can read too much into it, but obviously it's nice to like, sure. I think for the summer especially, like just trying to track your load, but I think in season it's something that you're just like, you're going to be bagged in season at points, and you just got to kind of roll with it. Yeah.
It makes you really wonder though about like just the point of the Whoop and like what it's supposed to do, because I'm in the same boat. Like I feel like I might have a better lift when I'm like, I could have a 25% recovery and have an unbelievable lift, and I was like,
yeah,
like, that's pretty good. It's just, I don't know. It's part of me. I mean, I use it mostly for sleep, just to gauge how much sleep I'm getting, because sometimes that's tough to do. But from a recovery standpoint, and then same thing with strain too. Like I used to have a group chat on my junior team. Dylan, I think you had a Whoop at that point too, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was this kid, Jonathan Young, who would get like 19.5 day after day after day, and we're just like, what is it? Like, what is going on with this kid? Like, something's
we all do the same things. We skate in the same practice. We do the same workout. And
Yeah.
So
I guess if you're all doing the same thing, like typically the people that have higher strains, if you're doing the exact same activities, are probably in worse shape, because it's taking a higher toll on their body. Like either that, or they're not as recovered as you are, and you're just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think a higher strain necessarily means that you're working harder, or you're, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's the weird thing with this kid Jonathan Young, is because he's like in the best shape. Like he's shredded.
Oh,
like
really?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's weird.
He's a freak athlete. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
you always make fun of him.
When you compare people,
it's just a wonder. He's just one of those guys who just strains you. We do the same practice. He burns 6,000 calories. I burn 3,000.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll jump back to you, Doc. Obviously, heading into this year, this is a big year for you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first year when you came up after your junior year and played those 5 games, did that eat a year off your entry-level deal?
Yeah, it did. So this is the last year of my deal. So I'll be an RFA next summer.
Right. So how are you feeling about things? Obviously, we can cut this out if you don't want it aired or anything, but how are you feeling about things going into it? Where's your head at? How are you feeling about camp? And what are you thinking for the season?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, like I said, I think I had a good summer of training, and at this point, it's just about, getting your mind out of the way and letting your body do the work. And I think, obviously I want to have a good year because it's my contract year, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think I can look at it like that and put extra pressure on myself. I think the biggest thing is just playing my best hockey, and wherever I am in Belleville or Ottawa, I think just kind of knowing, keeping that ultimate goal in mind of obviously staying up with the Sens, whether that's sometime this year, right out of camp. Obviously I'd want it to be right out of camp. And that's goal number one, is to just kind of have a good camp and make a good impression there. But, I'm obviously not in control of those decisions. So I think just playing my game wherever I end up and just kind of going from there.
For sure. It's the best way to look at it. I mean, we're was chatting with my dad the other day, and we were talking about that too, heading into last year. And it's a pivotal time, and like you say, you just got to show up every day and do your best and be confident. It sounds like you're confident in your training as well, and that's huge. You've put in the work, and now it's just a matter of showing up and doing your thing every day, and the rest is out of your control.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, just to go back just a little bit to the summer stuff. I know a lot of pro guys, they take like a month and a half. Some even take longer than that off from skating. Do you take any like buffer time off from skating, or do you just get right back into it?
Yeah, no, I took probably close to a month, right around a month, I'd say, maybe 5 weeks. I think, yeah, like having time off your skates is big, especially when you get to like the pro level and you're playing 70, 80 games. Your body just, your hips at the end of the year, and your body is just obviously just worn down, and I think that rest is important, and obviously just to build like that base strength layer again during those 5 weeks when you're not skating, and obviously just get away from the game mentally a bit. I think that's pretty big too.
For sure. Well, hell, I remember that was your junior year. You played a full season of college hockey, ended with the crazy long game.
Yeah.
Then it was up with the Sens, and then it was to World Championships, right?
Yeah, I was absolutely bagged. I mean, I thought my season.
How long after that game did you go to the Sens?
3 days.
Like that 4 or 5. Really?
3 days, maybe. Yeah.
Jeez.
And then I had
so you were probably still feeling it.
And I had a week in quarantine in the hotel, because that's kind of not peak of COVID, but I don't know what you consider a peak, but it was COVID's running rampant at that point, and so I had to do a week in the hotel. And then I remember I got out, and the team was coming back from Toronto in like a day or two or whatever, so they were just gonna skate me for 2 days until the team got back. I was with Pinto, we were both there doing that quarantine together, and I remember it was just the worst, like the player development guys in Ottawa were skating us, and both awesome guys and really helpful too, but I just remember those being the worst skates of my life. Like a week off my skates, and then going right into just getting absolutely bagged. It was so brutal.
I remember you telling me about that too when we were golfing about it. Like, I was like, wow, like how was it skating with them? And you're like, I just bagged. They just bagged me the whole time. Yeah, that was a tough stint for sure. One thing we always like to ask at the end to all our guests and our athletes that we have on is what's one piece of advice that you'd give our listeners, with whatever challenges or hardships they're going through? What would be one piece of advice or a couple that you would give them?
Oh man, that's a good question. Maybe just that you're closer than you think you are sometimes, in terms of your goals and stuff. I think some people think it's always, so far away, and not even close. But I think, like for me, I guess what I've realized at the pro level is like the guys that are the top end guys, they're a few percent better than everyone else. You know what I mean? And they're getting that much more opportunity, that much more, and they deserve it, right? Because they are that percent better. But I think, like coming up, I think for me, like truly when we were 15, like didn't really know where hockey was going to go, and then all of a sudden it kind of just takes off. You know what I mean? And I think I guess that would be my long-winded message, is just that you're closer than you think to your goals.
For sure, that's awesome. And one thing we'll clip and for sure and get it around on social media and share the message. And like you say, there's the difference between the top guys and the bottom guys in a team, in a lineup, in the league. It's so small and so slight. I look in in my own position too, now being a sophomore, and the difference between incoming freshmen and fifth-year grad transfers that have had successful college careers already. The difference between all of us is so slight, and the opportunity is there. It's just a matter of taking advantage of it and making a difference, and doing those little things, those small details that make a difference and build your case.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I mean, like you said, like there wasn't much of a crazy underdog story involved with you. Like obviously you've just kind of climbed the ranks. But but I've told Dylan this many times. Like, everybody really has an underdog story. Like, obviously, you faced that injury. Like, you were on the taxi squad. Like, all these different things. Those are all adversities that you've come across. And our listeners can really take advantage of in terms of the wisdom that you can get from that. So thanks for coming on.
Well, that was another good episode. I think, Joe, it was great to have Jacob Bernard Docker on, one of my longtime friends that we played together in 15s, our grade 10 year high school, and it's been good to see him obviously excel, move on from juniors to North Dakota, one of the top programs, and then obviously up with the Sens, and now he's duking it out in camp to hopefully stay up in Ottawa, and we'll see what happens. But it's been great to follow along and obviously have him on today and just listen to his story and what he's gone through, all the adversity he's faced, and get an inside look at what he's gone through mentally and the challenges on his mind.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, because I know he said he was like, yeah, I don't really have an underdog story in the beginning. And when you look from the outside, like, you look at it and he just kind of like just shot up the ranks, you know what I mean, at the top level at every single tier of playing. But when you really like look into the behind the scenes, just like I've always told you, like, everybody has an underdog story. There's always some adversity that you're going to face. Doesn't matter who you are. He had that injury, and then boom, the next year he gets the opportunity to go play junior A, and you know what I mean? Like, that's all it takes.
That's the one that baffles me the most, is like, he went from being, a 14-year-old kid playing bantam, misses the majority of the season as a 15-year-old, to making a junior A program as a 16-year-old. Who does that? Who the hell does that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
And the fact that he's 22 now is just,
he's our age.
From a hockey standpoint, that is unheard of. No, that doesn't happen anymore. I don't think, like,
I mean, the top guys, but he is a top guy. But you look at the rest of us playing college hockey, at 22 years old, I'm a sophomore. At 22 years old, he's already graduated and playing pro hockey,
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, so, like, for our listeners, like, that's the rarity. Now, you should definitely strive for that, but, like, it takes longer in most cases, especially with hockey, to actually achieve the goal. But I found that interesting what he said at the end, where, like, you're almost there, you're closer than you think, I think he said.
Yep.
And it's so true. Like, I feel, and it kind of goes with anything. Sports, yeah, definitely. But really anything in life, like, you could be, you're just right there, and a lot of people, they give up right before they're almost there, Mm-hmm. I mean, that there's that common saying, I don't know the exact quote, but it's somewhere along the lines of, like, don't quit just yet, like, you're almost there, you're almost at your goal, because sometimes it really can feel so far away, and, like, this is going on a little tangent, but I think it's good for people to know too. Like, I've been there with hockey plenty of times. And then, it's been the same thing with the business side of things too, where, but from both sides too, like, you could be almost there and then boom, at 180s and you're back to square one again. Or, you're almost there and you're like, oh my God, this is just dragging along so freaking much. You know what I mean? And then boom, you finally get to the point where you wanted to be. I mean, Dylan, like, a year ago, would you have anticipated that this is where we'd be going into launch next weekend?
No.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy. And there are plenty of times where, me, yeah, but both of us together, where we're talking, we're like, are we going to be able to make this happen? Like, can this really be a thing that we go through with and successfully launch and produce this product? And honestly, there were more times than once where we were like, it doesn't look good. From a capital standpoint, from a logistical standpoint, there's so many intangibles that you don't see. What you do see is, oh wow, they're creating an energy drink. Look, there's the final product. But no, there's this whole thing in between where the outside doesn't see. You know what I mean?
It's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, they don't see the rest of it.
Yeah, and that just goes to, like, that, just to tie it back into our interview, like, what you see for his story is you see that meteoric rise. You see that huge success story where boom, wow, oh my God, he's playing in the NHL. But on the day-to-day, like he's putting in the work on a daily basis. Like he's winning the daily battles to to get to win the war,
Yeah, and I can speak on, a personal level with Doc. Like you said, you see, oh wow, he's a first round draft pick. Wow, went in as a true freshman, NHL deal. Like, just seems like everything works out for him. But that is a kid who has earned everything. He deserves everything. All the success that he's having, he deserves it, because he's one of the hardest working kids I've ever met. And unbelievably humble. Like I've said, or Joey, I talk about Doc all the time, being one of my best friends back home. And, here he is. He's made the big leagues, and he still takes the time out of his day to shoot me a note in the summer. Hey, you want to come up and play around a golf, get a couple lifts in this summer? Like, he's the most down to earth guy, personable, humble. You would never know that that's a first round NHL draft pick.
Yeah,
he's an unbelievable person, and he deserves all the success that he's happened. And I love watching and following along with his story, and I obviously wish nothing but the best for him, because, like I said, he deserves it. He works so hard for it.
Yeah. And how hard is that to come by nowadays, too? Like, I feel like anybody who gets a little taste of success, especially and that's one thing I wanted to ask him, too, about the whole social media thing and how often he uses it. And, it doesn't seem like he's very active. But I think that plays a huge role in terms of your perspective of, like, what's expected of you. I think it's very easy, like I was saying, in today's day and age, where you get a little taste of success, and it's like, I finally did it. Like, I can leave everybody behind. You know what I mean? Or it's just there's like not arrogance, but a sort of I don't know the best way to describe this. You know what I'm talking about, where like somebody they finally reach their goal, and then it's just like they shut out people in their life they shouldn't be shutting out, and like all of a sudden they're this big celebrity because they're big time now,
Yeah, and that's not him at all. Like, hell, we went to high school 7-8 years ago together, and we're still in touch.
That's awesome.
Whenever I shoot him a note, I obviously know he's busy, but he always answers eventually, like whether it's later that day, the next day. He's an unbelievable human being. Yeah, deserves the world.
That's awesome. I'm excited to follow along on his this year too. You know what I mean? I mean, we were talking about it like it being his last year on his contract. That's always an interesting time. There's actually a couple guys that, actually Bossy being one of them, he's on his last year of his entry-level deal too. So it's, interesting to follow along, and, it was great having him on for sure. Yeah, definitely.
We'll have him back on next summer once we have an idea of, what his future is going to look like, and obviously talk about this season. But he's an awesome person, deserves the world.
Yeah. Yep. And definitely, we definitely gotta have him back on, because it was cool talking to Brandon too about because a lot happened in terms of he was injured, and then boom, he just took off from there. And like, this is what we want, like we were saying on the last episode, like this is the kind of thing that we want to see. We want to hear the guest story from up to that point, but then okay, where's your goal? And then later on, did they reach that goal? What changed? All these different things. It's really cool to just catch up and see where they're at. But that's it for this episode. And as we were talking about, we have our, let's see, so today is September 18th. Now this will be airing in a few days. And at that point, we'll be just a few days out from finally getting UD Energy into production. So if you don't have all the details on that, you can go on our website, look at the product page, look at all the ingredients we have involved. Our main focus of creating this drink was transparency, like really giving you guys a drink that you can trust with the right ingredients, with the right dosages, and ultimately helping you perform, whether it's in the classroom, in the workplace, and then being able to have that prolonged, sustained energy to succeed in the gym too, or succeed in your sport, whatever it might be. So stay tuned for that. And once again, thank you for joining us on this episode of Behind the Underdogs, and we'll see you on the next episode.